Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you came back, oh my gosh, thank you so much for coming back. And if you're new here, my name is Angela and I find my paradise through reading. And I don't often do a video specific to a book or an author. Usually I'll try to clump them together in a big, either it's a book haul or it's an end of month or just an update and a bunch of books that I've been reading during the month or the week or things like that. But I do sometimes want to give a special shout out or give special attention to a certain author or a certain book. Like I did with the Count of Monte Cristo, right? I'm still talking about it. I will talk about it forever. But anyways, this time I have been on a kick with none other than TJ Klune. Okay, TJ Klune has just gripped me up in such a way and has just blown me out of the water and I don't even know how to explain how cool and how fun his books are. And I had a taste of one and I was like, what's next? I need to know what's next. I need to read the next book. I need to read the next book. And I need to know more about TJ Klune. My dog snoring. I don't know if you can hear it, but she's laying right here and she's snoring. So if you hear it, sorry, I can't control that. But like I was saying, my first experience with his books was in the Lives of Puppets. I remember seeing this book many times in Barnes and Noble, and I'm like, oh, it's so colorful, it's beautiful. I love the trees and that look like tree houses in the trees. And this was in the sci-fi fantasy section, and I even read the back, and I'm like, I'm not sure if it kind of sounds good, but how would this work out? Because it describes it pretty much as it being a not Pinocchio, what's that puppet? Was that Pinocchio? Yeah, a Pinocchio retelling. But in a sci-fi robot kind of way, which I was like, how do you even do that? So I listened to the audio book I borrowed it from Libby, from the app Libby. If you don't know, it's an app that you can download on your phone, plug in your library card information, and you can borrow audiobooks and ebooks for free, like a library, and you borrow them for 2 weeks or whatever. But anyway, so I put in a request on Libby. It was kind of out being borrowed, and I would get it. It would be available in a couple weeks, and it became available. And the narrator was Daniel Henning, and he just he needs an Oscar. He needs an Oscar. He is so good at what he does. I was just so floored by how he did the voices, and each character had their own unique voice, and it was so fun and so entertaining to listen to. So highly recommend. I swear anything narrated by Daniel Henning has to be phenomenal. And I've even looked him up because I was just so impressed by what he did with this book. But anyway, let me read you the little snippet from the back of this book, just to tell you a little bit what it's about. It says, a real boy and his wooden heart, no strings attached. Deep in the heart of a peculiar forest, in a strange little home built into the branches of trees, is a family assembled with spare parts. 3 robots, fatherly inventor android Giovanni Lawson, a pleasantly sadistic nurse machine, a small vacuum desperate for love and attention, and a human, Victor Lawson. The day Vic salvages and repairs an unfamiliar android labeled Hap, he learns of a shared dark past between Hap and Geo, a past spent hunting humans. When Hap unwittingly alerts robots from Geo's former life to their whereabouts, Geo is captured and taken back to his old laboratory in the city of electric dreams. So together, the rest of Vic's assembled family must journey across an unforgiving and otherworldly country to rescue Geo from decommissioning, or worse, reprogramming. Along the way to save Geo, amid conflicting feelings of betrayal and affection for Hap, Vic must decide for himself, can he accept love with strings attached? Okay, so just reading that part is like, it just doesn't even like, oh my gosh, like the story is so good. So you have Giovanni Lawson. He is like this robot who built, this home in the forest, just completely secluded from the city and from like anybody. Nobody knows they're out there. And he is raising this human baby who he named Victor Lawson. And so then Victor has two friends, Nurse Ratched, who's like a very sadistic robot, and she is also like a nurse, but she just has like such a dark sense of humor, and she's hilarious. And then you have Rambo, who's a vacuum cleaner, who's got like anxiety, and he's I don't want to say he's a coward, but he's just like scared and worried all the time. And so Nurse Ratched, being sadistic that she is always playing on his fears and insecurities, and it's hilarious. But yeah, I mean, this story is just all about like family and friendship and bravery and loyalty, and there's just so much packed into this story. But one of the things that I would like to mention that I thought was incredible was, okay, so there is LGBTQ representation in this book. And so I say that not as a warning to some people, like, I just want people to know that, like, actually all three of these books have main characters that fit into the LGBTQ community. And I say that because some people just don't want to read books with that kind of content, and not because they're like homophobic, but they just don't. Same way, everybody has their own preferences. You could be a heterosexual male or female person with an active lifestyle and choose not to want to read books that have smut or sex scenes in it. So that's the only reason why I'm mentioning it, just for people's preferences, okay? But the main thing that I thought was so interesting in this book was that one of the main characters identified as an asexual person. And this is actually the first book I think that I've read that actually had that orientation in it, and not just like in the vague sense, but like actually had the word in there multiple times, enough that someone who doesn't know about asexuals might see the word and be like, what does that mean? And hopefully look up and maybe read about it and find out what that is. And the reason I think that's important is that some people, I think that's why representation is important, because someone not knowing that that's a thing may see that word, look it up, and find out something about themselves. So I think that's why that's important. And I'm just gonna just mention that, I'm not like teaching about it or anything, but like asexuality are people who are, have little to no like sexual desire or attraction to other people. Okay, so there's like a whole spectrum of them. So again, just in a nutshell, people who have little to no sexual desire or attraction to other people. And there are all kinds of categories within that spectrum, but that's in a nutshell. So I just thought it was like really interesting that that was put into like a book, like a main character, and that's the first time that I came across something like that. And then when, like, actually after reading 3 books of TJ Klune's, and I was like, I need to know a little bit more about TJ Klune, and I find out that he also identifies as asexual, and that he did have a partner and they were married and his partner passed away. So that will, because some people are like, oh, well, then asexuals don't have relationships and they don't get married, and that's not the case. But so that's a little bit about TJ Klune and that. The other thing that I thought was really interesting about this book, and I don't know if he did it purposefully to represent maybe dementia or Alzheimer's, but that's how I read it, and I was touched by it. If you don't know, my father has dementia and Alzheimer's, and so there is a character in here that was kind of reprogrammed back to his default settings. And so he's surrounded by his family and is still like a part of the family, and they're kind of like taking care of him, and they're like never leaving his side. And he sometimes has he will sometimes have moments of clarity where he's back to his normal kind of more alive self with his memories and his feelings. And so they'll have deep conversations, and it's just like having him back. And then next thing you know, after some time, like he goes back to his default settings, and he's not the same person. He's just like dull, kind of like a robot. And so they're always like repeating the same thing and just kind of waiting for his next moment of clarity. And that kind of touched me, because that's what I experienced with my father. And, you know, some days he knows who I am and sometimes he doesn't. And so, I mean, this book has it all, and it is just so funny. It is so adorable. It is so heartwarming. It is everything. So, and I know I've talked about this before, but in the Lives of Puppets, okay? The next book, you know, after that, I was like, please give me more. I hope some of like the rest of his books are like this, because, oh my gosh, I had the best time. And so the next book that I read of his was Under the Whispering Door. And I was very pleased when, again, it was narrated by the same Daniel Henning. So he did an amazing job. And it just started off, like chapter 1, I was crying tears of laughter. It was so funny. But this is kind of about death and the life that you lived, and coming to terms with like your decisions and how you live your life. And are you living a good life? Is this, you know, and what's important, right? You know, sometimes we can get caught up with like money and success and all of this stuff, and then neglecting what's really and truly important in life. And so kind of like a little bit of a like trigger warning maybe, you know, for people who are very sensitive to death and dying and, you know, afterlife, what happens after, and crossing over and things like that. People who, especially if you've experienced like a recent death, and, you know, that's just a warning from me. But I think I just loved these characters so much. But let me read the back of this. It says, when a reaper, oh wait, let me start at the top like I did with the other one. Let me be fair. Welcome to Charon's Crossing. Karen, I don't remember. The tea is hot, the scones are fresh, and the dead are just passing through. When a reaper comes to collect Wallace from his own funeral, Wallace begins to suspect he might be dead. And when Hugo, the owner of a peculiar tea shop, promises to help him cross over, Wallace decides he's definitely dead. But even in death, he's not ready to abandon the life he barely lived. So when Wallace is given 1 week to cross over, he sets about living a lifetime in 7 days. Hilarious, haunting, and kind, Under the Whispering Door is an uplifting story about a life spent at the office and a death spent building a home. I don't know. I think they did a pretty good job. That just sounds just sweet and comforting. This is like definitely like a cozy, comforting read to me. Again, like the characters, there's a dead dog, there's a dead grandfather, and I can't even put into words. Let me see what other people say about this. I love that his books like have like the little things people are saying. TJ Klune is a gift to to our troubled times, and his novels are a radiant treat to all who discover them. Whether Klune is making you laugh or cry, he is doing it with a wit and charm that is unparalleled. There is so much to love in Under the Whispering Door, but what I love the most is its compassion for the little things, a touch, a glance, a precious piece of dialogue, healing me, telling me that for all the strangeness I hold, I am valued, valid, and maybe even worthy of love. Under the Whispering Door broke my heart, and then it healed me in the next breath. A story about grief, loss, and moving on. A sweet tale of grief and second chances, and a ghost story about not giving up on even the most lost of souls. Oh my God. I'm about to cry because I'm reading these comments and I'm getting flashbacks of just some scenes that really touched my heart. And this is what he does in all of these books. He breaks your heart and then puts it back together again. TJ Klune, stop messing with my feelings. No, mess with my feelings all the heck you want, because I love it. I am eating this up. Tears. I'm eating this up. My heart feels so full. Oh my God. Anyways, moving on. I'm giddy. Oh, I'm so happy that I discovered him. I didn't discover him. I mean, obviously no more than Columbus discovered America, but I'm just glad that I found his books. And if anything, TJ Klune is discovering me and pieces of my heart that I didn't know existed. I love this guy. TJ Klune. Anyway, so then the next book that I listened to again, borrowed it on Libby for free. Daniel Henning again blew my mind with his narration. And seriously, I borrowed them for free on Libby, but I'm actually gonna buy them for what's it called, Audible. I want the actual books myself. I don't want to have to borrow them again and wait a couple weeks. I want these on tap, on demand. Whenever I want to listen to these books, I'm gonna want to have them for myself because I love them so much. But I feel like this is the one that most people are familiar with. This is The House in the Cerulean Sea. I never knew what it was about. I've seen it everywhere. I've known people to talk about it and mention it, and it's got I'm exaggerating, but 80 million 5 stars on Goodreads, and it's won awards, and it's just amazing. So I was always curious about it, never knew what it was about, but after reading these two, I'm hello, it is time. It is time for me to find out about The House in the Cerulean Sea. And oh my gosh. Let me read the back first, as I did with the others. A magical island, a dangerous task, a burning secret. Linus Baker is a by-the-book caseworker in the department in charge of magical youth. At 40, he lives in a tiny house with a devious cat and his old records for company. But his quiet life is about to change. Linus is summoned by extremely upper management and given a curious and highly classified assignment. Travel to an orphanage on a distant island and determine whether 6 dangerous magical children are so dangerous, in fact, that they're likely to bring about the end of days. When Linus arrives at the strangest of islands, he's greeted by a series of mysterious figures. The greatest mystery of which is Arthur Parnassus, the master of the orphanage. As Linus and Arthur grow closer, Linus discovers the master would do anything to keep the children safe, even if it means the world has to burn. Or worse, his secret comes to light. The House in the Cerulean Sea is an enchanting love story, masterfully told, about the profound experience of discovering an unlikely family in an unexpected place and realizing that family is yours. So the house, I'm having so much trouble like keeping my wits together because this book again like blew me out of the water, and I just had the best time. I don't understand at all like how this hasn't been made into a movie. Not just a movie, but it needs like a spin-off like series. you know um just like the characters are everything. Lucy and I don't want to give any spoilers. I don't want to give any spoilers, but if you've read this book, Lucy is my favorite. Oh my goodness, I love that kid. Let me read you what it says in here. Quite possibly, oh, this is my favorite. Quite possibly the greatest feel-good story ever to involve the Antichrist. The House in the Cerulean Sea is a modern fairy tale about learning your true nature and what you love and will protect. It's a beautiful book. 1984 meets Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children with a pinch of Douglas Adams thrown in. Touching, tender, and truly delightful, The House in the Cerulean Sea is an utterly absorbing story of tolerance, found family, and defeating bureaucracy. That was a big deal, defeating bureaucracy. I'm glad this person mentioned that. Sweet, comforting, and kind, this book is very close to perfect. The House in the Cerulean Sea is a work of classic children's literature written for adults and children alike, with the perspective and delicacy of the modern day. I cannot recommend it highly enough. A sweet narrative about the value of asking questions and the benefits of giving people, especially children, a chance to be safe, protected, and themselves, regardless of what assumptions one might glean from them. Regardless of what assumptions one might glean from, say, reading their case file. Quick and charm give way to a serious exploration of the dangers of complacency in this delightful, thought-provoking Orwellian fantasy from Klune. This tale of found family is hopeful to its core. Readers will revel in Klune's wit and ingenuity. Lambda Literary Award-winning author Klune has a knack for creating endearing characters, and readers will grow to love Arthur and the orphans alongside Linus. Fans of quirky fantasy will eat it up. If ever there was an author to watch out for, Klune is definitely that author. TJ Klune is a master storyteller. I mean, they're not wrong. Definitely the sweetest book involving the Antichrist you're probably ever gonna read. Again, like this caseworker, he's told by his company in extremely upper management, they're like, hey, we have a super secret assignment for you. There is this super secret orphanage that nobody knows about. And so this is top secret, whatever. And they're like, we need you to leave tomorrow. Like go straight from here to home, pack your things because you're leaving tomorrow to this place. And you need to be there for a whole month. Okay, and during that month, we want weekly reports on what's going on. Leave no details out. We want to know about Arthur Parnassus, who is the master of the orphanage, and he's running the orphanage there. There are 6 orphans there with magical abilities. And so go check it out. Don't tell anybody where you're going. Don't tell anybody about this. Top secret. Here's the files. Don't even open the files. It's like in a sealed envelope or whatever. You can't even open this until you get off the train and you're at that location. Okay, so peace out, have fun, good luck. And he's just like, what the heck is this? Now, he's been doing this. He's been a caseworker for 17 years. And this is the first time that he's ever been contacted by extremely upper management, which I think the name alone is hilarious. And it's just like this, the whole vibe of this organization and everything it's pretty freaking hilarious. But so he arrives, and he's like, okay, so like, he's gone to other orphanages, and it's like, a girl who can move things with her mind, maybe a kid who can make fire with his hands, that kind of like abilities, right? Special abilities. So he's like, okay, so what's so different about this place? And he finds out really quickly how different these kids are and how rare. And he is in for the time of his life. I mean, he really is. And to the point where in one of his reports that he sends back, he's like, well, if checking out, if, like, I haven't seen this kid's room yet, but if it turns out to be the last thing that I ever do, I do, I do have my will on file, over here with human resources. And if there's any body parts, if there's enough body parts of me left, then please cremate them and like whatever. I mean, this guy was like, oh my gosh. But dang, this book was so funny and it was so heartwarming, and it just like encompasses like so much that I can't even. And yeah, I don't know. And it's always, and I like reading about like maybe foster children or orphans, and adoptive families and things like that. It's always been in my heart to be a foster parent. And so that is going to happen at some point. Right now I have like a full house, but I have like put things into works to become a foster parent myself. So I think that really kind of like touched my heart as well in that way. But again, TJ Klune, dude, you're awesome. So then after these three, which is like, I think I'm not gonna say a trilogy because they're technically like standalones. Although I was like, after The House in the Cerulean Sea, I was like, there has to be more. Like, I want more. This can't just, please, so what else does he have out there? And I was so pleased to find out that there is going to be a part 2 to The House in the Cerulean Sea, and it is slated to be released September 10th, I think, of this year. And I rarely look out for like books or or pre-order books or looking for release dates, but this is one that I was like, I saw that and I like wrote it down on my calendar because I'm like, that's a must have. That's a serious date. Like I need to get it ASAP. So, and I didn't see a pre-order option for it. I'm gonna look into that more, because if I do have the option to pre-order it, I will, because I know how much it means to the authors and how it affects like their publishing and their ratings and the numbers for their first week of sales, because all of the pre-orders will be reflected as part of their first week of sales numbers. So I would totally love to support TJ Klune in that way, if pre-ordering the second book of The House in the Cerulean Sea. And then the title of it, from what I remember, is what's it called? Somewhere Beyond the Sea. And which is so perfect because that song comes up a lot in this book. Somewhere beyond the sea, somewhere waiting for me. You know that song, right? Who doesn't know that song? I love that song. But I just thought it was just so precious that they would name, or that he would name the next book Somewhere Beyond the Sea. And I love it. I love it. I love it so much. So those were these three. And then thank goodness he has more books. I was like, okay, so these are like the three that I see all the time. What else? Has he written anything else? And he has written another series a series, Wolf Song maybe? Is there like a Wolf Song series? There's all kinds of other books that he's written. I'm a fan, and these three have already like disorganized my TBR because like I keep like getting these books and not reading what I was planning on reading. So I'm going to try to maybe, yeah, okay. I'm going to take a little bit of a break, but I am going to be picking up some more of his books like when I get a chance and making my way through. Like I want a shelf dedicated to TJ Klune. And this has been a really cool year because like I feel like TJ Klune was a new author for me that I absolutely love now, as well as Neil Gaiman. Neil Gaiman is a new author that I am absolutely in love with and slowly collecting his works. So it's just been a good year. And of course there was the Count of Monte Cristo. So anyways, thank you so much for sticking with me and just watching me like fangirl over TJ Klune and his wonderful, wonderful works. Look how beautiful. Look how beautiful. Like, you can't. And each of them have like a little house like on the side, which is like just really cute because it just really represents home and family. And that's kind of like what he represents in all of his books. They all have a house. There's that one, there's this one, and there's this one. So there is definitely a theme going on here, and I'm all for it. All right. So thank you so much again for sticking with me. Happy reading to everyone, and I'll be talking to you again soon. Bye.